Well, greetings, everyone. Thanks for coming to the meeting. We still have not heard back from ISOC yet in terms of the actual results of the SIG election. I had anticipated for sure that they would be available by this time. That being said, due to all the structural impediments for new ideas and the way that they set everything up, including the survey design and just how the process went and the lack of publicity, I believe that it is very, very unlikely that we will be accepted as a SIG. And I've known this for the last couple of weeks, and I've been signaling that to the team as well. What is interesting, so I expect, even though we haven't found out about the vote at this point, I expect that we are not going to be in the top five. I will be absolutely surprised if we are. And that's all okay. I want to show you all some. Oh, wait. Let's see. This couldn't be it. No. Okay. Let me show you all a email that we got back from the SIG people. I think some of the people on the initial email that we sent to the SIG program, I believe all of them probably know about this and have already seen this email, but there's a number of us, a number of people on the call right now that probably didn't get the email. So I'm just going to share my screen and we're going to look at it. So there's some interesting things around this. One is there's actually an upside to not being selected, which I hadn't anticipated before because I didn't realize that there was this aspect of the structure that does work against SIGs in some ways. Okay, so it says, Dear David and team, thank you for your email. We appreciate the feedback and suggestions outlined in the briefing document. And they were mentioning that these processes were developed in 2021 and that they have this SIG working group that has been meeting. Well, it met several times to discuss things. And some of the things that we brought up, like increasing the activity around the visibility of the activity around the SIG, SIGs collaborating and survey design. These are things that they've already identified and that they plan to fix over time. And they also mentioned that they are welcoming to novel ideas through a different program. They say, although not formally recognized as topic SIGs, several topic focused community groups within Internet Society ecosystem are active in the community portal. So they allow you to essentially set up a community group. And they say that these community groups share knowledge and hold discussions on specific topics, including Internet of Things and rural development, both of which were previous SIGs. Emerging or developing topics are encouraged to create their own community groups and utilize the portal to connect with other like-minded members. Setting up a community group often provides a solid basis to rally interest. And basically, they're saying that this would be a good thing to do in case we wanted to submit in 2 years. I'm personally not interested in submitting in 2 years. That said, I do think that it probably does make sense to set up a community group. And then a couple other things they wanted to point out was that they're essentially independent from SIGs. We had pointed out, um, excuse me, that chapters are independent from the SIGs and that they're actually independent from ISOC. And therefore, this thing that we pointed out, our members were having a long time when we were bringing new members into ISOG. It was taking weeks to months for them to be brought into the actual chapters, which we had hoped that they would have access to the chapters almost immediately so that they could send out messages and encourage people within their chapters to vote for our SIG. But that didn't happen for most of the people because it took over a month or more to actually be allowed into the chapters. And what they said is, per the chapter agreement, chapters are expected to approve new member applications on a monthly basis to maintain status and good standing. This is one of the criteria for annual chapter performance evaluations. We were not seeing this happen within a month. They are saying that if there are particular chapters that we're requesting to join, that they could reach out to the leadership. Of course, that's too late at this point. Doesn't really help, but it's good to know that I guess that they're willing and able to help in that way. Um, they also had a suggestion, and this is, I think, the most interesting part of this, and also something I didn't realize. They say the Beyond the Net program. So welcome, Michelle and Ramina. They're both joining right now, which is great to see that they're here. This is the part of the letter that I thought was most interesting. They said the BTN, Beyond the Net program, is an Internet Society chapter funding program. SIGs are not eligible for BTN funding as, unlike chapters, they are not independent entities. If you would like to be considered for BTN funding, we encourage you to collaborate with a chapter interested in the topic to prepare and submit a proposal during the next round of funding application, which opens on January 6th, 2026. So this is interesting. I didn't realize that SIGs are not eligible for Beyond the Net funding. In fact, I thought they were. So I thought that us becoming a SIG was going to open up that as a possibility, but that isn't the case. So here's the golden lining for us not being selected as a SIG, which, you know, granted, it isn't it isn't for sure at this point, but I'm pretty sure that we are not going to be selected. But here's the golden lining of that is that we can submit funding proposals to chapters. And what I think would be really interesting would be for a number of people who have good connections with their chapters to come up with meta layer oriented projects, or even just funding the community group or the SIG, uh, and submit those. And we could maybe have 4 or 5 or even more applications going in on January 6th or soon thereafter to actually fund this work through Internet Society chapters. Of course, that requires that our new people get accepted into the chapters. But if you have not been accepted in a chapter at this point, by the way, Ramina, have you been accepted?
I have today. So thank you for the letter. It definitely did work.
Okay, wow. Oh,
Yeah,
you were working for about 3 months, waiting for about 3 months. Is that correct?
exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, that's great. So Romina is now accepted to the Canadian chapter, or the Canada chapter, and that means that she could, uh, in the beginning of January, put in a proposal for a meta layer project. And what I'm suggesting is that all of us who have a chapter relationship and some excitement around this project, uh, let's define a bunch of projects that you want to work on that are related to this. So anyway, that's what I have now. I guess I can summarize to say that we don't know exactly for sure if we've been denied. I'm asserting that it's very likely that that is the case. There is, however, this silver lining that opens us up to get Beyond the Net grant funding. And at this point, I'd like to open this up to other people, in terms of, love to hear uh, any thoughts that you have around the process, what worked, what didn't, how you're feeling. Anything related to this is open.
Stan here. I think that this just, you know, helps us move along and look at the best approach to the type of proposals that we want to do, and just maybe generate a replication. I know I need to um, get a strong relationship with uh, my local chapter on the West Coast. So, but it would be great to have a strategy, I think, moving
Yeah, I
forward.
totally agree. Where are you located, by the way?
I'm the furthest point north of San Diego County. I'm
Okay.
right on the line between here. I mean, I wouldn't want to go to Riverside, but isn't Los Angeles the closest one? Or is
I believe so. Yeah,
I
there
met
is an LA
met
chapter.
all the folks at the 50th birthday of the internet, the anniversary with Vint Cerf there and Mei Lin. And so the LA chapter is really nice. I mean, I get along. I think they would remember me. So because I volunteer too.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, and that's what we need to leverage is those relationships to the chapter. Twahir mentioned, isn't Beyond the Net funding now applied directly to the ISOC Foundation rather than through chapters? My understanding, Twahir, is that the chapters need to apply to ISOC Foundation for the Beyond the Net funding. So we would need to talk to our chapter, come up with a proposal that our chapter is happy with, and then our chapter would apply to ISOC Foundation. That's my
Yeah.
understanding. If there's someone else who doesn't have that, has a better understanding, feel free. Suzanne, you're about to say something?
No, I agree with you. I'm sure that they're the parent company.
Yeah. Yeah.
Parents, you know? So yeah, that and just maybe with the team, proposing it for the chapter to propose it would make it kind of slide right in.
Yeah. And I totally agree that we can coordinate on this among ourselves and come up with a whole slate of proposals based on who we have in the different chapters. Uh, Twahir.
Uh,
Great.
I think David, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I think the issue is I did get funding from ISOC a few years ago, and from what I understand, it's from last year. The applications are going straight to ISOC Foundation now instead of through chapters. There have been some issues about funding through chapters that I think ISOC Foundation was doing away with. So the chapter will just be there to kind of supervise that cross check that you're using the funding correctly, but the application you as you the ones who are seeking the funding, they are actually apply straight to ISOC Foundation. That's what I believe from me as a last year. But we can, I'll check with the local chapter, and then I'll get back to you on that. But I think that
Yeah.
there has been that change.
Okay. Yeah. That well, basically, we need a little bit more research. I totally appreciate you doing some local reconnaissance with your chapter to figure that out as well. And I guess the bottom line is we're going to figure that out because we've already been recommended by the SIG process to use that as a funding mechanism. So we will investigate that, figure it out, and then come up with a coordinated strategy to see that we can, see how we can get as many people funded to do this work, and to do meaningful work around the meta layer through this Beyond the Net funding opportunity. So yeah, thanks for that update. Anyone else have any thoughts? While we're waiting for someone else to put up their hand, I'm going to just say I really appreciate all the efforts of everybody who's been participating and contributing and showing up to sessions and speaking up with their ideas, bringing their voice to the table. That's absolutely essential. And I also want to be clear that I don't see this as some kind of loss or time wasted. We've actually created a new network and group of people who are interested in this meta layer work. And that's very positive. I'm super excited for that. I'm super happy that I've met all of you and that we all are seeing something that a lot of people aren't seeing at the moment. So, uh, yeah, suffice to say, we've accomplished a lot. My deep gratitude to all of you for that. And I'd love to invite anyone else to, speak to any thoughts, questions, reflections that they may have. And if there are any people that want to speak to the current situation and where we're at right now, uh, invite you to raise your hand. And after that, I'd love to just talk a little bit about next steps. And I think, Michelle, I'd love to have you speak to ACT in a few minutes. But yeah, for now, does anyone have anything that they want to say? Any burning thoughts that they want to bring into the space? Okay. The next topic in my mind is next steps. So where does the SIG go from here? And we're assuming that we're not going to be recognized by ISOC. So I do think that it probably makes sense for the SIG to move forward with a community group within ISOC. I don't necessarily think that that's going to be a huge hub of activity because of the way that the community portal works. But it does make sense for it to be there so that we can point to that when we're doing funding proposals and say, yes, this is something that is actually established within ISOC and that it's an emerging topic and we're looking to get funding for it. So that's one thing. Twahir.
Again, I think I'm getting too talkative today. Another thing which I was thinking of, what if we actually come up with a kind of different kind of a chapter, not necessarily based as a countrywide, not basically actually a chapter is in an international sort of chapter, and then we concentrate that chapter with doing this kind of work. I'm just thinking aloud.
So you're saying creating a chapter that is not geographically based, but then so apply to be a chapter that's more topically focused?
Yes.
Hey,
something like that.
It's an interesting thought. Yeah, let's research and see what the possibilities within ISOC are. I mean, I think that's what we need to do is kind of understand what are the different avenues that we can leverage the fact that we have this connection with ISOC. I mean, us individually having this connection with ISOC and potentially the SIG as a community group may have with ISOC.
I think we can explore that. If it's not possible, then we kind of start off a chapter which is geographically based, but then people from different kind of other countries, like in this situation, join into that chapter, and our focus is solely on this issue, apart from other issues.
Twahir is talking
Are you getting
about
my point?
Yeah, yeah. You're trying to hack the system. I can see it. I can.
You
So
know, it's, as we say, is that there are several ways of actually skinning a cat. So
yeah,
if we can't
exactly.
get, if we can't use a knife, we can use a razor blade.
Well, let's look into that. So what I hear you saying is we could start a chapter, whether it's some obscure city in Kenya or in the United States or somewhere where they don't have a geographic chapter right now, and then we have a bunch of people from all over join it, and we focus on meta layer things. Very interesting concept. Let's consider that and see what's possible. Anyone else have any interesting ideas, innovations, other ways to skin cats? Well, okay. So let's talk about next steps. So one is this fundraising plan and the resource that needs to go along with that. So I'm just going to write that down in the chat. So fundraising. Um, the other thing, another thing that I think. Oh, that's weird. Okay, hold on. Okay, now I'm okay. There we go. Fundraising. Another thing that I think we want to do is start looking for organizations that are simpatico with us, that are aligned, and to basically create an alliance. Have a way for them to say, yeah, we're part of the SIG. We're going to contribute where it makes sense. Yeah. We work on regeneration. So as regeneration issues come up in the SIG, we'll weigh in, basically, is what we're looking for. Or Human Energy, it's an organization that I'm going to be meeting with next week. Human Energy is very interested in a noosphere, which is kind of the corpus of all human thought. And we can create a digital noosphere with the meta layer. And so getting them as a potential partner could be valuable because there's an alignment as long as they're committing to provide input on the things that are related to what they're interested in, which is this noospheric um, thought corpus. So partners is another thing that we can all start thinking about bringing new organizations into the fold. What else? Okay, well, certainly governance. We need to nail down, at least for the start, our governance system, which we are basing on the IETF draft to request for comments system. We have an initial draft of the first meta layer draft, which defines this process, but we haven't got comments on it. We haven't deliberated on it. We haven't uh, made it into a request for comments. We haven't basically institutionalized it. And I think that that's one thing that we want to do is nail that down, because once we've nailed that down, that way that anyone can create drafts and we understand how these drafts can be turned into requests for comments, and anybody can comment on drafts and comments on the RFCs. And then if we understand the process for approving a RFC, once we've done that, then we can just start collectively creating a bunch of meta layer drafts, which speak to the different aspects of the systems that we want to build, including terminology, the desirable properties of a meta layer, the requirements for the meta layer substrate, pilots, etc. All that is open, but we need to nail down the governance system. So I think that that's important, and that's one of the things I'll be focusing on is how we can move forward with that. And now I want to invite Michelle to talk about the pilot project that she's working on, which is called ACT, African Civic Trust. And I want to make it clear that all of you, if you have a project that you're interested in doing, let's build it into a meta layer pilot project. Let's work collaboratively and create several, if not a handful, of pilot projects that we can potentially get funding for through both the Beyond the Net grants, but also even externally. So, Michelle, are you able and willing to talk a little bit about your project? Is Michelle
Yeah,
still here?
hello.
Oh, there she is.
Hello, can you hear
Hi.
me?
Yes.
Hi. Okay, thank
Hi.
you. And so, hi everyone. And first of all, I'd love to thank all of you for being part of our journey and continue with us despite the outcome. So, in that spirit, I think it would be great for us to move forward with the Africa Civic Trusts, whereby we are hoping to begin the research phase like later this month. um with in mind, like we'll be having like pilots in Kenya, Rwanda, and Ghana. And also, like as we are doing like the research, we'll also be also applying for grants and also exploring partnerships to help us strengthen this work ahead of implementation next year. Yeah, so yeah, that's all I have for now.
Can
So
we,
if hello.
yeah, I was going to say, why don't you speak a little bit to the problems and that this project will address, and how people may be able to get involved and help at this early stage with the research, depending on where they're at.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So a little bit about the problem. So currently, like across Africa, like millions of people are like growing up using mostly mobile phones to connect online. So in this era, like there is this thing like called misinformation, whereby like yes, we have the access, but not always the trust that we need in the online content. So, in building like this African civic trust, we are building like a civic layer for digital trust designed around um, around the realities of the African youth. So, instead of like creating like another platform, um, the act is reimagining trust as community-led governance, whereby um, visibility, multilingualism, and participation be right at the interface where people actually engage online. So, through low bandwidth overlays and smart verification tools, we are going to make like trust travel with content and shaped by those and also shaped by those affected by the most, that is the young people, the local communities, and also the civic tech hubs across the continent. So the vision is to create like the vision is to make the internet like have like this space that is more trusted and also shared, and also where governance like ri rises from ground up, reflecting the values, languages, and the dignity online. So um we are hoping so with regards to that, we are hoping to like actually start the research this month, like to actually like um get to see like what are the actual user requirements, and what other um and what's it called? Which other functionalities we can implement in this project so that to actually serve the African communities. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Michelle. I I think this is a really powerful project, and it has a great potential to attract some funding. And of course, it would be great if it'd be even better if it could be posited in a way such that it has its own funding model built in. but I think that's the type of thing that we can figure down the line. And yeah, there's just a lot of possibility for that type of project. Twahir.
Okay, David, David and Michelle, if I may just throw a spanner into the works. Kenya is heading into an election period. In fact, campaigns have already started as of now, unofficially. How can we? I'm quite new with the Metalea thing. I think this is my second meeting. How can we kind of use this platform to ensure that we have actually a free and fair election without having the issues that we had? I'm sure, as Michelle is aware of what happens in Kenya during elections. In fact, as a point in hand is what has what has just happened in Tanzania just last week. So how can we make sure that something like this doesn't keep on repeating? Thank you.
Michelle, you want to address that? You have any thoughts?
Yeah, that's a great question and an interesting one. So actually, this project will actually help really much when it comes to actually the election period, because like in most cases, not only in Kenya, but in also like countries across Africa, like wherever like there's this major political issue or even elections, say for instance, like in Tanzania, recently where there were protests like with regards to election, and they had like their internet down for almost a week. And also so in the light of that, like the Civic Trust, it's designed to actually like spread like reduce the spread of misinformation, if like whereby people will be able to also like verify if content is misinformation even while they are offline. So like that way, people are actually able to like verify like this is happening within the country within this certain period, instead of like following what's mainly mainstream and also mainly promoted by the government propaganda in order to like cover like things that are happening within the country. Yeah.
Okay, I'm getting you, as Michelle, but what happens in a situation like what happened in Tanzania, that they've actually shut down the internet? Would the metal layer be able to assist in any sort of as because if the internet is shut down, even the issue of misinformation doesn't come in because the information isn't going anywhere, isn't reaching anyone anywhere. So how do we handle such a situation?
Well, what you're speaking of right there, Twahir, would require some kind of mesh network that would be able to operate even if the internet goes down. And I think that that is something that may want to be considered. There is a proposed SIG called Community Networks and Community Infrastructure. I don't know if they're going to actually make it. I hope they do. I think it is important. And that particular SIG would be some people that I think that we should coordinate with and have a conversation with about how there could be African community networks that are able to continue operating in a mesh network even if the internet goes down. So let's Michelle, I think that it would be great if that could at least be a consideration within the scope of African Civic Trust. So I put down pilot projects in the chat. African Civic Trust is one. I also put Decentralized Intelligence Agency. This is one that I'm interested in doing. or at least promoting and seeing if there's any, if there's any uptake for it. But basically, online and in YouTube, there's a number of people who are essentially internet sleuths, and they watch videos and then they go and look and try to find information on the web, and then they might do a video or they send it to the video person, and it pushes forth these investigation around mysteries and things. And in particular, I've noticed that this has been super strong around the Charlie Kirk assassination. I don't know if all of you are aware of it, but yeah, a guy who was pretty prominent in conservative college circles. Basically, he was recruiting people to become college conservatives, got got assassinated last month, and there's all these people that are trying to solve it. And this is interesting to me because they're finding things that the government isn't even finding out. So it seems to me that there's this possibility of creating a layer where these people who are now doing research independently and then sharing it on the social and on YouTube um, could actually have a layer where they're collaborating together on internet research. And what I am wanting to do is essentially provide a way for those folks um, to have their own layer. And I'm going to, float the idea and see if we can get some people from the YouTube community interested in it. And we don't know. I don't know right now whether it will get picked up, but it is something that I think would be interesting. That said, I think that there's room for a lot of community projects or pilot projects to be done, and inviting all of you to think about, well, what is the project that you might want to advance within the meta layer? And we can talk about making it a pilot project of the SIG. Michelle, did we have any other next steps that you wanted to presence?
I don't think so. There's any other.
Okay. I'm just looking through my notes to make sure I didn't miss anything. Um, oh, yeah, actually there is, Michelle. One that you and I spoke about just recently, and we've been talking about for about a week or so, is this possibility of having an event early in the year. And initially we
Oh
were
yeah.
thinking about January, but um, now thinking about maybe February. There is also this other event opportunity that we can fit within. Let me find it. What was that? Do you remember the name of that, Michelle? Okay, it's Learning Planet Festival 2026. It's essentially it's a virtual conference where they're asking for many people to come up with innovations around education. You provide an event description and set up your event and then submit it to them, and they will include it in Learning Planet Festival 2026, which happens at the end of January. So our latest thinking is that we would submit to the Learning Planet Festival some kind of event around the meta layer in education, and then we'd have a big meta layer summit or something like that, a larger meta layer event gathering, virtual gathering in February. There is precedent for this well, not about, it was a little less than 5 years ago. Uh, we did the Overweb Challenge, and it was mainly pushed forward by me. And then there was another guy, Albert, who had a YouTube channel, and we collaborated and brought in some other collaborators as well. We had 200 people at that over web challenge, and I guess it was, yeah, January 2021. So this is what's possible if we take a little bit more time to create and promote an event. So at this point, I think, well, if there is anyone who's interested in helping out with an event in February, a larger uh, metal layer summit type of event, please either let us know in chat or directly contact me or Michelle. Also, if there's any people who are particularly interested in, if there are any people who are particularly interested in doing a event at the end of January on the meta layer in education, let's talk about that as well. Just let us know in chat or let me or Michelle know that you'd like to be part of the organizing committee for either one of those two events. And we will, get started with organizing those sometime shortly. I think events are great because they provide this opportunity for other people to see us and see what we're doing, for us to build our network, for us to get better at presenting our ideas. All right, Twahir, great. We're happy to have you involved, and I see Abdul Fattah. He's going to be part of it as well. So we'll start a chat um, with that, and I'm also looking into getting the Discord up and running. So maybe that's where we'll have those conversations, either there or in the leadership group. Let's just figure that out in the next couple weeks. So I will definitely be reaching out to both of you and anyone else who wants to be involved in the events. I guess we'll follow up with some posts in both WhatsApp and in the Signal group about these different next steps, as well as the notes from this conversation. So, yeah, please let me let us know what you're interested in working on. Any things that I'm missing, Michelle? Any things that you want to press in? Anyone else
I don't think so.
wanna? Oh, anyone else have any thoughts, ideas, or anything they want to bring to the table now? Did we miss anything that you think that we should be focusing on as a next step? Well, okay. If there's not anything else at this point, I think that, yeah, we've got a good foundation for moving forward. Would be very happy to see some confirmation from you all in the Signal chat or the WhatsApp chat, letting us know that you're in for moving forward, regardless of whatever ISOC SIG program says. That'd just be good to see. And yeah, we're just gonna continue on and start working on these next steps.